Hey folks, everything new under the sun. I want to talk to you today about how to keep your basement dry. And the answer is kind of obvious, but I want to give you kind of the correct information as to how humid you should keep it and what level you should keep it at, basically. So I just purchased a new Honeywell, and the light is not the best here, but it is a new Honeywell 70 pint 33 liter. Let's see the value there, dehumidifier. Now I've got a full basement here. It's a full 8-foot height basement. I keep all my wood in it. Got a pool table here. I've got a semi-finished area here, which is couches and kids' rec room and such. And I've also got over this side, you notice the floor is concrete. Over this side is wood, which you can't see, but I've got my firewood in there. It's going to be dark. I know you won't be able to see it. Just believe me, there's wood in there. So the first thing that comes from, there's a basement health website you can go to. Just Google basement health. They suggest keeping the basement to 50% humidity or lower. Now that is a pretty aggressive humidity level. At one point I read that, you know, as long as it's below 70 it's okay. I currently have mine set to 60, and it's going to be pretty much going all the time. Even upstairs, it's about 60% humidity in the main level. We're a maritime climate. It's humid here, but I do want to keep the basement dry to limit the mold. It does smell moldy down here. It does smell musty. That's what's going to happen in a basement. But you don't want carpets. You don't want anything that's kind of going to absorb moisture. You know, my pool table's dirty. Sorry about that. But materials like that absorb moisture are not going to be ideal. And we don't spend a lot of time down here, but if you spend a lot of time down here and there were mold issues, well, you could run into a lot of health issues. So get a good dehumidifier. This is a decent one. This is one where you take the bottom compartment off. There's a 33 liters of water storage here. It will fill this up over, you know, a day, depending on how moist it is in your basement. And then you pull this out and you can dump it down the sink. Other ones do have bilge pumps where you undo this and it actually pumps out the liquid. So you can see there's actually water dripping out there. I'm not going to open that. But this is for a hose. This is a gravity feed hose. So you can allow it just to gravity feed into a drain if you have a drain. Now in this house, I don't have a sump pump. So I keep that closed, and I have to take that tank and dump down the sink every day, 24 hours, 48 hours or so. So what is the optimal humidity? I'm going with 60. As you can see there on the screen, I've got the digital readout, which is nice. If you pay a couple extra dollars and get a dehumidifier with a readout like this, as opposed to one which is a dial, it's much easier to maintain what you're looking for. So I keep this at 60%, and it's showing that the room is about 61% humidity now. So when it gets down to 59, that's where it would shut off. You have a couple of fan speeds there, so if you want to dehumidify faster, you can do that. It also has a continuous dehumidify mode. So if you've had a flood or some real bad moisture event, a heavy rainfall. In this house, I do have rainfalls where the water, sometimes if it's bad enough, will come in, percolate through the concrete walls and pool up on the floor. So in that sort of emergency, you would use a continuous mode there. But I can set this up and down. I can also set a timer for when this comes on. Maybe come on at night. This also has an auto defrost mode. If it's going 24/7, it may be that the coils will get iced up and then it won't work properly anymore. So this has an auto defrost mode where it senses when that happens, and it will go ahead and shut itself off for enough time to melt the ice. So 60%, and then I can check this. If I go over here, and I've got another gauge here, you can see that this is just below 60. So this is humidity, this is temperature. It's at about 18, 19 degrees in the basement, and the humidity is below 60 on this one because it's a little higher up. The further you go down, it's going to be a little bit more humid. So if I brought this down to the level of the humidifier, it would probably show a little bit higher. Again, you want to limit things like carpets. Set your dehumidifier to 60%. Limit things like carpets, couches. This is not even ideal. but these are kind of materials that don't absorb too much, but keeping the dehumidifier will certainly save any furniture you have downstairs. The other thing is that you want to keep the doors open. You want to keep these doors wide open so that the humid air can waft in, and so that the dehumidifier can properly dehumidify the whole basement. So we've got another room in here, and we've got this door open to that basement. So this is kind of the central area in the basement where we can set this and basically let it go. And so that's it. How do you dehumidify your basement? Well, get a good dehumidifier, otherwise it's going to last you only a year or so. Set it to 60%. That's a little bit high. Like I say, upstairs it's actually higher humidity when it rains. It's a maritime climate, it's very moist. So maybe even bumping that up to 65, 70, maybe warranted if it's sometimes it rains for a week here. And if you have this set to 60, it's going to be going 24/7. It will never shut off. So you gotta be aware of your climate, see where you are. But all in all, you want to keep it as dry as possible, because dryness preserves stuff and keeps bugs away. If bugs find out that your wood is moist, they're going to get into it. If bugs find that your clothes and all your winter clothing is moist, they're going to get into it, and mice are going to get into it. Generally, moist conditions mean that bugs and animals, mice and such, will be happier. The drier it is, the less happy all those things are. So if you want less bugs and critters in your house, keep it nice and dry to a point. You don't want it too dry where you get bleeding noses, but you want to keep it dry. So set it to 60%, get a good one, otherwise it's only going to last you a year or two. And set it in the middle of a room, make sure all the basement doors are open so all the air can come. As it dries the air out here, the moisture from the air surrounding in the other rooms will just migrate in, because it's not going to stay the same, and also the fan helps to suck it in and keep the air moving around. So that is the how-to on how to properly dehumidify your basement, and it's important for many reasons. One is to protect your basement and whatever you have stored down here, clothing, electronics, everything else, hats, winter clothes, whatever. And two is for your health, so you don't get mold and mildew, or at least not too much of it. We probably have a little bit in this basement. This house is 100 years old, so it's not going to be the driest, most freshest smelling basement, but keeping it dry is one of the biggest things you can do to preserve it. And you're not down here too often. We don't sleep down here. Definitely don't recommend that. But certainly when it's dry, you can come down here and play it. It's also great in the summer when it's hot upstairs. Well, it's dehumidified down here, so it actually ends up being a very nice, cool, relatively dry place compared to upstairs to come and cool off. So those are the reasons why you would do it. Keep it to 60, keep all your doors open, keep the dehumidifier in the center room, and you should be good. So that's how you do it. I hope you found that helpful. Let me know what you guys do, and let me know what your best practice is, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Okay.